Welcome back to the Gleam fishing channel. It's a bit of a rugged old day in Port Nelson at the moment. We had quite a good breeze of northerly last night, and she's pretty reasonable rain at the moment. So the audio won't be as good on this one as some of the others because we do have the rain in the background. So sorry about that. Just want to thank our viewers as well. So we've had a lot of comments and a lot of positive feedback on the last one I did on Grandfather Jack Gardner's boat. So thank you, and look forward to growing the channel. So we're actually lucky today to have Roger. So Roger Rawlinson. Many of you will probably know Roger. He's been around for a wee while. Not giving away your age or anything, Roger, but you've sort of almost been a lifer largely. So I just thought, thanks for coming. We'll have a bit of a chat around you, your background, your history, vessels that you've got. We might sort of try and talk about a couple myths around trawling and things like that for the audience. Welcome, and largely over to you, Roger. Who's Roger? What's your background? Where did you come from, and what got you into fishing?
Thanks, Darren, for having me down on your boat. What got Roger into fishing? When I was a young guy in my early teens, my dad used to go game fishing, and one day a guy one of his work colleagues pulled out, so that left a seat, and he said to me, "Son, do you want to come game fishing?" I said, "Yeah, hell yeah, I'm in." So that was really the first taste of going out when I was 16. Game fishing, being on the sea, even though before that we would go to our holiday place in the Coromandel and set flounder nets and stuff like that. It wasn't an open ocean thing. So going out game fishing, open ocean, I thought, hey, this is a big place out here. You don't really see it when you're in harbour fishing and mucking around. So that was really my first taste of thinking, actually, there could be something in a life at sea for me. And it sort of spurned really what my future was going to entail from that one particular time at sea with my dad and a few of his mates. So I always had that in my mind when I went back to school, and I was at school, I was thinking, oh man, I don't want to be here. There's more for me than being at school, which is the same with a lot of young people,
Yeah, sounds a bit familiar, eh? I was, not that it wasn't game fishing, obviously I was in a fishing family anyway, but I remember sitting at school around that, 15 and thinking, I don't know, I remember school cert was due, so there's a bit of pressure on with the first exams and that, and I think I might have sat that, but didn't do overly well because my mind was already fishing. So, so it's interesting, isn't it, really, how there's always, there was a point in time when someone decided this is me, and it sets your career. I say to a lot of people today, like my kids, for example, that they're not sure what they want to do or, how they want to do a career, etc., etc. But as I say, just wait, don't rush. It will come to you eventually, and normally it does. So what was commercial fishing? So you've talked about that. Game fishing, and I get it, right? So you realise that there's a bloody big world out there. There's a big blue ocean, and cool things can be done, and you can earn a crust from it. So when did you actually get into commercial fishing? So what was your first vessel? What was what were you doing? Where were you fishing? Things like that.
Yeah, well, when I left school, I did my school C. Didn't do that well. My dad says, "What are you going to do? I've got the perfect job for you." My dad's a plumber. Born and bred in Rotorua. Yep. So I started work as a plumber. My life was starting as a plumber. I did that for 2 weeks, crawling under houses and covered in cobwebs and stuff. So after 2 weeks, I said, "Dad, this is a shit job." He says, "Yeah, son, what are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going fishing." Yeah. So I hopped in my mum's yellow Honda Civic. I still remember it like it was yesterday, and drove up to the Coromandel. Yeah. And got a job immediately on a mussel barge. So I did mussel harvesting and that sort of stuff. And then I did that for a little while, and then I ended up in the oyster factory opening oysters. Did that for a little while. Heaps of jobs back then. You could do pretty much anything in a place, small community town like up in the Coromandel. And then I started crayfishing. So that was really what sort of made me think there is an opportunity for a living where I could make money out of fishing in some way. So I was a deckhand on a crayfish boat for about a year. At the same time, we turned our little Parker craft into a flounder tender. Got a license. This was in 1987, 1988. So the quotas had just come out in 86. So we had to go get 5 tonne. You needed 5 tonne back then to get a license. Carks and farks or whatever they were called back
it's
then.
going
Remember
back a
those?
while, isn't it?
It's going back.
Acronyms everywhere. Yep.
Yes. So that was really the first time commercial fishing was done in our family. So my dad, we were up in Coromandel all the time, turned the little boat into a flounder boat, setting flounder nets and actually commercial fishing. So back then it was good. You could pretty much make a really nice little living out of something that you loved and something small. So small costs and being efficient. And that was really when we started commercial fishing.
Cool. No, that sounds like a bit of a common story, eh? Like people realise that you can actually make a crust out of doing something outside that largely you enjoy. So, so you've sort of got quite a bit of your family's involved now. So I know that Rawlinson's a reasonably big whānau, and you've got a fleet of boats that we'll talk about shortly. So who else is involved in Rawlinson and RMD fishing and Santa Maria fishing now?
My 2 brothers are involved. We're all shareholders and directors, and my mum. My mum's a huge part of our business. She's been
as mums always are.
Yeah, she's been there the whole time. She rings me every day. Son, what are you doing? How you feeling? It's not too rough out there. Yeah. So, and I've got 5 boys. 4 of my sons work for me in the business. Yeah. So just recently, I sort of put it to them. Are you guys in or are you guys out? Because I really need to know this moving forward. I'm getting older now. I'm in my mid-50s. Yep. If I'm going to push forward and get bigger, I need to know you guys are on board. So we got something that we can teach too. So when we step back, they have to step forward. Yep. So I'm doing a lot of stepping back now. They're coming forward. That's awesome. My brother Dan, his boy's in the business too. He's just recently got his skipper's ticket, so he's stepping up. So this is all really good for us as a family business, And like I say, spoke a little bit about my mum. If it wasn't for her, none of us would be here. But she's getting on. But she always wants to know that we're doing things safely and
good old mum.
And we're not stressing out.
And,
and then. But she's always the sounding board. Oh, Roger, do you think when is enough is enough? Yeah. But when you've got drive and you've got your boys behind you, particularly. Yeah. You can do great things, and you know that they got your back, and you're not doing it to on sell later or to make a whole lot of, buy something to sell something. We really don't sell things. We've used boats as a tool to get to where we need to be. So over the years, I think we've owned about 20 boats. Yep. So we started out with a little flounder boats, and then we progressed up into a little bit bigger boats. And in the early 90s, 1991, we bought a boat called the Patricia Jane, and it was in New Plymouth.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, so we went there, had a look at it, bought it.
Was she one of the J boats, like Patricia Jane, or what was she?
No, it wasn't. It was a carry built boat.
Yep.
And it was trawling at the time. Yep. We weren't that great at trawling, to be honest. We were self-teaching. We didn't really know too much about it. So we turned it into a Danish seiner. Yep. And then things grew from there, and we thought, then this is a great way of catching fish. It's really fuel efficient. You can target areas.
Yep.
So, for the listeners that don't know what Danish seining is, you You drop a flag with your rope on one end, and the rope goes down, sinks on the bottom, and you put your net in the middle, and you run another whole lot of rope out one side, and you come back and you pick up the flag, and you gently herd the fish into the net and wind it in at the same time. It's a really efficient way of catching fish.
Yeah, good quality fish too, eh?
Very good quality. The fish isn't in the net for very long.
Yeah.
And the good thing is you can have low horsepower boats that can do that type of method.
Yeah.
And it was really prevalent up in the Hauraki Gulf in the 80s, 90s, 70s. Not so much now.
Yeah.
A lot of us have moved towards different other methods to catch different fish in different areas.
Yeah.
So Danish seining is a method still done, still really efficient, still a great way to catch fish.
Yeah, there's a couple of them here in Nelson too. I see one just went past the Natalie J, and there's a little Kiwi here that do it. So still a little bit of that happening around the place. So you've had 20 vessels, so or up to. So what have you got now? I know you've got a few. So what vessels have you got, and where do they sort of operate? Like, where you do most of your fishing, and what sort of methods do you use now?
We've got the Margaret Philippa. It's a 24-metre steel vessel. It's built in Aussie. It fishes out of Tauranga. So my brother Dan operates that with another guy. They do 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Mainly targeting trevally, snapper and taraki. So we fish the Bay of Plenty and also around East Cape down towards Gisborne. That's the area for that vessel. We've got the Hikarangi. That fishes in the far north. My son Andre operates that. He runs that. So he fishes East Coast, West Coast. Same thing. Taraki, snapper and trevally. That's a 22-metre boat. We've got the Tengawai and the Ikawai. We just recently bought those from Sanford's.
A lot of people know those boats. They've got a lot of history and had a lot of good fishermen on those vessels.
Yes. So they predominantly fish out of Onehunga and New Plymouth. Got a good friend of mine, Curly. A lot of people will know Curly.
Yep. Oh, Curly.
And New Plymouth. So he runs one of those boats for me out of New Plymouth and moves up to Onehunga. I've got the Santa Maria purpose-built trawler. The lads here in Nelson, Amex, they built that for us back in 2016.
Crikey, time flies, doesn't it?
So
2016.
It's coming up 9 years old now in November.
Wow. Yeah.
But we bring it back every year. That's what predominantly why I'm here.
Yeah.
So those guys know the boat intimately, obviously. So we bring it back. They tidy it up. Because it's got my mum's name on it, I like it looking beautiful.
Absolutely.
All the time.
Like the one next to us, it's got my grandmother's name on it, Kathleen G. So you bit of special attention.
Yes, absolutely. So we just recently also brought the Rakaya. That's more of a deep water boat. So it's 30 metres. It's going to sort of fish the top of the North Island and halfway down the North Island, East Coast, West Coast, doing deep water mainly.
Yep.
Also got a long line boat called the Aotea. Sort of tiptoed into long lining. Really just to diversify a little bit away from what we're doing into a different method. Yep. It's not really my cup of tea. Yeah. So we'll probably most likely shift that boat on. We've tied it up really nice for another guy to come along. That'd be perfect for a young guy, owner-operator. It's all purpose set up. It's even got a catch plan with it, which is unusual. Normally you sell boats, that's just a boat. There's no quota goes with anything. Yeah. So that's a bit of a plug out there for the listeners.
Well, it's a good opportunity for someone to get into the industry. Here you've got a good conditioned vessel with a fish plan, which is pretty much money in the bank. So
yes.
Yeah. If anyone's interested, they could reach out through the comments, and I'll get them in touch with you, Roger.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we've got 7 vessels, six trawlers, and a long line boat.
Yep. So that's a fair fleet. So that's 6 nightmares. I mean, once upon a time with Guards Fisheries Nelson, we had 6, and I can remember the lack of sleep, a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of guys, a lot of things to go right and go wrong. So a majority of them are trawlers, and I guess there's been a lot of noise about trawling, and people are saying, look, it's destructive to the seabed and all of those things. And look, largely previously there probably has been elements of that, but as we know now, it's only 3% of the New Zealand sort of coast is actually trawled. But it's largely the most predominant method, I think, in New Zealand. So what are your thoughts on trawling, and should people be concerned about it, or what are your thoughts?
No, well, trawling, as you've just said, is a time-tested method over hundreds of years. Is a really efficient way to catch a vast array of species. So it's efficient in that way. We've been doing it in New Zealand for more than 100 years. We've fished in areas that we've been fishing for. Me in particular have been fishing in areas for 30 years. So it tells me that what we're doing is really sustainable. If you can go back to the same places year after year after year and still catch your fish, it means you're leaving behind enough so it replenishes itself. So that gives me great comfort, because, like I said earlier, I've got my boys coming through. I don't want to pass on to them something that they say to me, oh, Dad, we can't go catch any fish. You must have caught them all. That's a common thing that people say. So in New Zealand, we've got a really good system. We only catch a small amount of a big area. Bottom trawling, it's high profile at the moment. We as an industry, and us in particular, our business, we only really want to catch the fish that we're trying to target. There is a lot of people talk about discards and bycatch and stuff like that. They're really emotive words, so we only want to catch what we can sell. So we target the fish specifically. We've got quotas for everything, so it's a catch it, bring it back, sell it, and make some money. Yep. The footprint is important to us, the bottom footprint. So when you set your gear for bottom trawling, it sits on the bottom, but you want it as light on the bottom as possible. So you just move over the sea floor, you catch the fish that you want to catch, look after it, bring it back, make some money.
Yep. No, absolutely. And I guess for those that don't understand, I mean, trawling is you basically deploy a net made out of trawl mesh, and that sits. It's got like a ground rope on the bottom that sits on the bottom, then floats on the top that hold it up. And then you have trawl boards or otter boards, or people call it different things around the world, in front of those, just in front of the sweeps and bridles to spread it. And then obviously the vessel tows through the main warps. And I noticed, like, years ago when I was up, I think, doing some work with you, Rog, and you had, you'd change from, traditionally a lot of boats use big, heavy wires and all those sorts of things on sweeps and bridles. And I noticed that you'd sort of gone to rope and like combination rope and wire and all those things that sort of ultimately lighten the footprint and don't dig in as such. And of course, I think that's part of the myth, isn't it? That people think, we target foul, coral areas and all the area with heavy shellfish and all of those sorts of things, and we cause destruction. But as you know, if you go near any of those, your net's destroyed, and you've lost a lot of gear and a lot of equipment. So what have you sort of done to lighten your footprint with your gear over the years?
Yeah, well, exactly what you say. So we learned pretty much early on from when we were Danish seining that you don't need this heavy stuff. It wears out quicker, it costs you more, you got replacements, you've got fixing up time. So we went to three strand rope, and it's trying to float. So we put a little bit of dog chain here and there just to get it to the bottom, just to get a little bit of bottom polish. And we found that worked really well. So just that one change made a huge difference, and over the years other boats have done the same thing. With the advent of new tech, with sensors and monitors and stuff that you can put on your gear to tell you exactly what it's doing, is really game changer stuff. So you can, like you said before, with the trawl doors, you can get your optimal spread for the length of sweep to get the right angle to chase the fish down. So you don't want to be out there too long. You want to be out there doing things efficiently, catching what you need to. At the same time, you've got to talk to the factory, because the factory determines ultimately what you can bring in and when you're bringing it in. So that all has added stress levels, and you've got this time, because once you start catching fish, you've got to start thinking about when you're going to get it in. So you're running out of time as soon as you put your first fish on. I wouldn't say it's a race, but you've got quality issues. You've got fish that potentially are going to be sent all around the world. New Zealand fish is world famous. So to get it in timely, to get to the factory, to get it sent somewhere, that's important. It's critical. So that comes into the quality, which comes back to what I said before. You don't want to catch a whole lot of fish that you're not keeping, because that damages the fish you do keep.
And you want to keep it in the cold chain, because as you said, what is it, an hour in the sun is a day off the shelf life and all those sorts of things.
Right.
So
that's right.
So largely because, so why wouldn't, I know you catch things like trevally, you probably get the odd flounder, and you probably get the odd, you had terakihi and those other sort of bottom dwelling species. I mean, why don't you longline or pot for those? I mean, is that proven technology yet?
No, well, we know that the species like John Dory, you can only catch it trawling, Danish seining. It doesn't take a hook readily. Trevalli's the same. A lot of trevally are in the midwater. So when I say midwater, they're not always on the bottom. So long lining is tried and tested and proved for snapper. It's awesome at catching snapper, gurnet. And then you've got the other types of long lining which catch pelagic fish, the tunas and the swordfish and stuff like that. But for your fish and chip shop fish, trawling is the time tested method to be able to get the fish at a right price point. So when you and I on a Friday night go down there for our fish and chips, that's where the fish and chips comes from.
So trawling puts the fish in fish and chips largely, doesn't it? Yes. And we don't want people to boycott fish and chips because it's a New Zealand staple. But so I guess the viewers that have questions or concerns around trawling, feel free to actually ask us some questions. But the most important thing is they need to know. What I enjoyed about your story, Roger, is you trawling for your future and your whānau and your kids. Like, it's really great to hear you've got you and Dan, you've got boys coming through everywhere, and you're not setting them up to fail, you're setting them up for success. And you wouldn't be doing that with a method that you thought was unsustainable. So
exactly.
Yeah, people just have to have trust in their food supply, because we are feeding the people, and we feed a lot of people. And I know, like during COVID, and Roger, you did a lot for feeding various hapu and iwi up north. So you sort of gave back to the community.
Yeah, absolutely. When that hit, we relocated one of our boats up to the far north immediately, and the need was great. It was bigger than I ever thought. So through the customary permitting system, we consciously made sure that we were doing everything right with the regulator, MPI. So when we were doing this customary fish under the permit system, everything was right. We were ticking all the boxes, but ultimately feeding the community. So because we were doing it in reasonable numbers, I bought a chiller truck just to keep the cold chain. Cool. So we could deliver these fish around to marae and hapu, and the fish was just primo. And the feedback that we got from the people was just, it was heartwarming. I sort of underestimated the impact that giving some fish away to people had on them, and particularly me. Because we had the capability and capacity to do it, we did it, and we did it happily. I'm still doing it today.
No, look, we and as an industry, we thank you for that, because there was a lot of kudos, it just shows that, you're feeding the people, and, you did it well in the time of need. And, no, it's a bit of a punt, but, Moana, who you fished to, they were involved and supportive of that process as well. So it was just shows how, as a method and as an industry, we're there and we can step up when the people need us. So thinking about your time, because you said that you're stepping back a bit now and you've got boys coming up, which is really, really cool. So the future for, the Rawlinson fishing clan is bright. Thinking about your time at sea, was there, most of us that have spent, many years at sea get to see some cool things. There might be some, fascinating, might get involved in some weird weather events. We might get involved in some rescues or emergencies, or have some amazing interactions with marine mammals or some incredible fish. I don't. It's just, throughout my time on board, I can just remember all these little things that were quite cool, where most people may never experience. Is there anything like that rings true of you? Like anything that's special to you that you've experienced in your time at sea?
Yeah, one time in particular, we were fishing up in the far north at North Cape, and it was a beautiful, clear, sunny day. It was a fantastic day, and just for no apparent reason, just out of nowhere, there was about 10 whales just poked their noses up out of the water and looked around.
Wow.
And that was just a thing that stuck with me, and it was just like silent. You couldn't hear anything. They just poked up, looked around, and went down. And they did this on and off for, 2 or 3 hours. And that was just an experience that I thought, I've never seen that before. I've been at sea more than half my life, and I've never seen that before. But just even the day-to-day interactions with the dolphins and the birds, and you see sharks and turtles and all sorts of things that, particularly in New Zealand, we've got a great marine life out there. Yeah. And over the years, I've seen the fishing fleet slowly sort of move on, vessels getting older. There's less and less of us out there making an impact.
Old fishermen and old boats.
Yeah, there's less and less of us out there making an impact on the water, which is keeping it in a pristine state, which is really where we want to leave it. We want to leave behind a zero footprint. So after we've come and gone, you wouldn't know we were there. So, but it's the hours, Darren. You know yourself. You don't get eyes like this by sleeping too much. You do serious hours. But in the end, you wanna return so you can feed your family. You wanna pay your bills. So fishing is a great life, man. Like I said, I started when I was 17. I'm now 55. Yeah. I don't know how long that is, but it's a long time. So, for young fellas coming up, man, it's a good way to get into something physical. Not all young fellas, or even girls. I've taken girls out to sea. Yep. If you think fishing could be a job for you, there's plenty of us out there that'll take a young person out for a trip. Tucker trip, we call it. Yep. So if you work, you get a few bucks. If you don't work and you think it's not for you, nothing lost, but a whole lot to gain. Yep. We've got all sorts of industries within the industry, like all sorts of career jobs you could do. Hydraulics, engineering, mechanical, electrical, all of these sort of trades. A decent vessel needs that type of person. Fishing boats just don't run by themselves.
Yeah, I think they say that for every person working on a fishing vessel, there's 7 on shore that are involved in different trades that support that vessel. So, having the small fishing vessel is like having an active business community as well, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what's been your highlight, Rog? Like you've been, you're not old. We're a similar age, but what's been the highlight? Like if you fell off your perch tomorrow, what's the one thing you'd be really proud of and would think about the most?
I think what I'd really be the proudest of is where we've come from in a small community to what we're doing now. It's a long journey. over 30 years. So I'm proud of the fact that started small, slowly worked our way up to what we're doing now. I still think in small terms, and I still help the small guys. If anyone reaches out to me for anything, I give them whatever knowledge that I've gained to also help them out. You're the same. Somebody rings you, you just give them what you know. So and particularly my boys, my nephew coming through, that's really the highlight, because without them I wouldn't have sort of grown our business to a place where it is now, because there's a lot of headaches involved. We got 40-50 guys working for us, shore-based team, engineers, mechanics. So, but on balance, I wouldn't do anything else. Yeah, it's great.
Like all jobs, there's highs and there's lows, and it's easy to get down and and dwell on the negatives. But there is just so many positives, and of course, working in the environment, not so much today. Viewers will probably hear the rain coming down louder and louder on the roof. But actually, to be fair, this is the sort of day at sea I remember, particularly when you were scalloping, that you'd be standing at the tray on the stern, and it didn't matter what wet weather gear on, you still got a wet backside basically, but you still look back with fondness and love that sort of environment and lifestyle. So anything sort of so last thoughts, Rog? So we're going to sort of wind up shortly. Anything else that you would like to say to the viewers or to the industry? Any sort of final thoughts?
Yeah, hey, look, we're in a bit of the fishing industry, and a lot of primary producers around the country. Things are tight at the moment. Things are tough, but fishermen, we're resilient people. We have to be. I know in my own heart that we've got a really great fish stock and a really great fishery in New Zealand. So the viewers out there, if they go out and they can't catch a fish, be rest assured the trawler didn't catch them all. There's days, every day is a different day. We don't always catch fish every day. It's a hunter-gatherer thing. The fish are swimming around. We've got to find them, catch them efficiently, and bring them back. So the fish and chippy he's got his fish and chips. We've got a big export market that a lot of our fish go around the world. So we're feeding a lot of people, but rest assured we're feeding them out of a sustainable stock, where we know we can keep it to a level. The industry, we raise particular quotas when there's an abundance, and equally we drop it quick when we think that maybe it needs a bit of a rebuild period, and we do that for a lot of species. So it's just don't think that we just go out there and catch everything. We don't go out there to catch everything.
No, absolutely, and I mirror that. Thanks, Roger, for coming down today. It's been really bloody enjoyable, and I'm, I guess, heartened that there's young Rawlinsons and co coming through, and the inshore future is actually bright because we've got the whānau coming through. So, thank you very much for coming.
That's right. Thanks, Darren.
That's another one. Thanks, viewers. So if you like what we're doing, you want us to continue to do more of these, please hit that subscribe button. That's important to us, because the more that subscribe, the more we know that we're reaching you and you're actually interested. Because if you give a shit, we'll give a shit, and we'll do more. Have a great day, and thank you very much.